Woo! Oh, no, that was a good game. What do you say, boys? Time to go to bed?
Don't you think it's time we all get our own places?
Nah.
Vote, and the choice is yours. Don't vote, and the choice is theirs. Your vote could be the one that counts. Take a moment right now. Think about the election, what it can mean to you. Again and again, a difference of only a few votes has decided elections. Vote, and the choice is yours. When you vote, you are making a choice of people and policies and plans. You are choosing forces that shape the future, your children's future. Don't vote, and the choice is theirs. That is the simple truth. If you don't vote, the choice is going to be made without your influence. The choice is theirs, not yours. Do you want it to be that way? Just one vote per precinct could decide the next election for President of the United States. It has happened before. Remember to vote, and the choice is yours. Don't vote, and the choice is theirs. Your vote could be the one that counts.
Reach out, oh, with Ray and Steve. Reach out, with Ray and Steve. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the car. For the whole team. If they don't win, it's a shame. Play ball.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. Welcome to Reach Out with Ray and Steve. And of course, you know by now that this is the show where East meets West, where the Yankees meet the Dodgers. Baseball meets music, and we all come together for community. All right, everybody, let's welcome the hosts of our show, Ray Negron and Steve Vaccaro. Come on in, gentlemen.
Hey, Robbie, how are you, sir?
Good to
I'm
see you,
good.
Roberto.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Thanks for that intro. But in New York, we had an unfortunate travesty that just happened, traumatic situation, a fire in the Bronx, and so many people lost their lives. And Ray, you're from the Bronx, and you saw this, and what's your first reaction when you saw that?
Well, first off, I have the principal of 4 of the kids that were lost in that fire, Luis Torres. And Luis, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you having me here, Ray.
Louis, talk about what happened in the Bronx yesterday. We have a lot of people around the country that may not be aware of it, but talk about how it hit home and so many people lost lives in this fire.
Yeah, so there was a major fire in the development, multifamily development, where a family was using a space heater to keep themselves warm, and it turned out to be a major fire. and a lot of children were killed in the fire, as well as family members. The actual children that I'm connected with are the children, the nephews and nieces of two of my staff members. They were actually killed in the fire, and it's just it's just heartbreaking that in the world that we're in, there are still people having to heat themselves up with space heaters. Such a very unsafe situation. That's not necessary if we do right by the families and make sure that our buildings all have adequate heat.
Right, and people outside New York maybe not be familiar with the apartment complexes in the city of New York and the
Especially
Bronx.
the Bronx and
in
Brooklyn.
the Bronx. A lot of people in that building, a lot of people are close in proximity where they live. So this is a real situation that really affected so many people, and so many people were killed due to this fire.
Yeah, a lot of families live on top of each other pretty much. You can have like 100 families in one building. It's a very challenging situation when you have a fire in a building like this, because the outcome is never positive. And in such a short period of time, we had a lot of loss of life. When you start burying babies and children, something is really, really wrong with our society.
No. Robbie Robinson, I see your body language. What do you want to ask Lewis?
Well, this is a horrible, horrible scenario, no question about it. And so we can just pray for the families. We can pray for all the people. And we thank God for the firefighters and all the first responders who come out and give of themselves to make things better and to keep it contained as much as they possibly could. So this is a horrible situation, and I hope and pray that everybody comes out of this none for the worse from where we're at.
Lewis, how can I know that people have been giving clothing and a lot of supplies. How do we send monies? I know a lot of money has been raised so far, but not nearly enough for what is needed.
So there's an organization called the Gambian Youth Organization. They're on Instagram. The Gambian Youth Organization. They have a GoFundMe that's currently active right now. That's the best thing to do at this point. They've collected enough coats and items. Now it's just financial to pay for burials, to pay for people having to live in hotels and other things. So it's the Gambian Youth Organization, and you can find them on Instagram.
Gambian Youth Organization on Instagram.
Yes.
Okay.
And Mr. Torres, I'm a psychologist, so if there's any counseling services that are needed for the community and the school, the families, I'll be more than willing to support your efforts, community in the Bronx there.
And also, Lewis, I know I did speak to Randy Levine earlier, so I know that the Yankees are on it. They're always there from the standpoint of the community at times like this, so I know they're going to do what they got to do.
Yeah, the Yankees are always involved in supporting initiatives like this. We just gotta, do better, and I think from this, we gotta put an end to these things happening. And the only way that we're gonna do that is by fighting the inequities that exist in our community, right? If the family didn't need a space heater because there was adequate heat in the apartment, you would have saved all these families, right? So we gotta do better. Make sure our conditions are good for all families to live safely in this world, and that's where our energy and focus needs to go. Making sure that this doesn't happen again.
Well, Luis Torres, the principal of CS55 in the Bronx, thank you so very much for joining us, and please reach out to us how we can help and support your efforts and that community's efforts as well.
And Lewis is more than a principal. He's a guy. He's a man of the people and always has been, and he's my brother, and I thank you.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
God bless. God bless. In case you're not from New York, we have a little news clip so that people could get well aware of what happened in the Bronx yesterday. So if you want to donate, check out this clip and what those families are challenged with at this point.
We have some breaking news to bring you right now on a 5-alarm fire at a Bronx apartment building. We have just learned 19 people were killed, including 9 children. Right now, more than 60 people are believed to be hurt. 32 of those victims have been transported to 5 area hospitals.
Very heavy smoke, very heavy fire. Units pushed in. This smoke extended the entire height of the building. Completely unusual. Members found victims on every floor in stairwells, and we've stressed this over and over. The door to that apartment was left open, causing the fire to spread and the smoke to spread, which is always a problem for us.
FDNY Commissioner Daniel Nigro says the majority of the victims suffered from severe smoke inhalation. This is obviously a developing, ongoing story that we will be updating for you throughout the night. Stay with CBS 2 and CBS.
Robbie, unfortunate event that happened here, and we wanted to get Luis Torres because he's such a
An advocate in the neighborhood.
in the community. He gives back in such a big way. So we need to start off with that. So, but we also lost 2 people in Hollywood, Bob Saget and Sidney Poitier.
Before you get to them, okay, and I'm going to, again, I have to do this. A young lady that actually Steve and I both got to know, 17 years old. And as I'm hanging up with Randy Levine of the Yankees, I get a call from the family that she lost her battle with brain cancer.
Oh.
That's Carly. And, she's as important as Sidney Poitier. She's as important as any movie star, okay? Because she's not going to get buried in the rubble here, not at all. And I want the world, because she's not going to have a future. Her future is over now, but God has his plan, so that's it.
Yeah, we went. That's at East Islip High School, a high school in Long Island, and Ray and I went there. They had a big event for her, and she was a cheerleader for that high school team. And it's the high school that Boomer Esiason, the football player and WFAN announcer, had gone to, and she was such a figure in that community, inspiring figure, that it's such a tragic loss. Such a young age. So very, very sad day. And like we start off, Bob Saget, an actor, 65 years old. He was in lots of series, but he did a song on one of the shows that he was on that we all know that show, but it's called My Girl. So let's check it out, Bob Saget, a little bit.
I guess I'm gonna sing a song, and I'd like to dedicate it to DJ. Oh, thanks. I used to sing this to Deej when she was just a little girl, and I really hope she likes it right now. I got sunshine on a cloudy day. When it's cold outside, I got the month of May. Whoa, I guess you say, what can make me feel this way? My girl,
My girl.
talking about my girl. My girl. I got so much honey, please envy me. I got a sweeter song than all the birds in the tree.
Okay.
Such a loss, and he was doing stand-up comedy in the Florida area, and it's unfortunate. We've lost a lot of great people recently, Robbie.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, that's a sad thing. Bob Saget, what a great career he had, and how many people he touched. Oh, there he is with Frankie.
Yeah.
And Robbie, it's great to hear that your boss is doing better. I spoke to Alan this morning, and he was telling me that your boss is doing better. Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, well, we're doing better. Frankie's doing better, and we're getting ready to tour. We were actually going to hit the road in February, but now because of the whole horrible uptick in COVID, although the good news is the symptoms are generally speaking, much less severe, not as extreme. But we're going to wait another month before we hit the road. So we're going to hit the road in March. And I think one of the first shows is down at your buddy Bobby Rossi's place.
I was just going to say that. Exactly. Thank you.
Yes, in Clearwater, Florida.
Yeah.
That's going to be an amazing time. We also lost acting legend Sidney Poitier, who is pretty much the Jackie Robinson of the acting world, right, Ray?
Yeah.
Incredible. Influence to all people, and you know what? A true crossover, a man that black and white loved.
That's right. And all his movies and performances dealt with culture and the society at large, and he broke a lot of barriers. Interracial couple topics, Raising the Son, To Serve It With Love.
Steve, he said it best when he said, "I'm not a black man, I'm not a colored man, I'm a human," and I love that.
That's right. We have a little 1-minute clip we want to show because these are some of the words that Sidney wanted us to walk away with during his career. So let's check out what he had to say to all of us.
Sidney Poitier and what he told our Robin Roberts about questions to ask before leaving.
We have to look back across those years and ask ourselves, how much did I try to improve not just myself, but the environment? Somehow the universe is not designed for us to be here in perpetuity. But before we go, and when we go, we owe it to ourselves, but particularly to the past, we owe it to ourselves to go at a level where we are not so bad at all, that we are pretty okay.
Pretty okay. And that's fitting, because your last words in the book, if you don't mind, are very similar to what you were just saying.
Hope is the eternal tool in the survival kit for mankind. We hope for a little luck. We hope for a better tomorrow. We hope to somehow get out of this world alive. And if we can't and don't, then it is enough to rejoice in our short time here and to remember how much we loved the view.
His modest, elegant way.
Robbie.
Powerful.
In your travels, Robbie, did you run into Sidney? Sir Sidney?
You know what? I never have run into Sidney. We did run into Bob Saget, and we ran into Ricky Peterson, and we ran into Joe Piscopo along the way, but no, never Sidney Poitier. But I love his perspective on hope, because every day is a new day. You know, they say yesterday was history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is God's gift to each one of us, and that's why they call it the present, and it's God's present to each one of us. A new day with new life and new hope.
Well said, sir. Well said. And before we go further, Ricky Peterson's our musical guest later on in the show, real short. But we have a segment called Back in the Day with Ray. And just last night, he had a sit down with Joe Piscopo, and we have a little tape of that interview that, Ray, you did with Joe yesterday.
Yeah, he's a good guy, fun guy, Yankee fan.
Yankee fan.
Hey, he's a Jersey boy, isn't he?
He's a Jersey boy. He's a big Frankie. Besides Mr. Sinatra, he's a big Frankie guy.
Yeah,
He really is.
another Jersey boy. All the Italianos.
That's right. So buckle up. Let's check out this little interview with Ray Negron and Joe Piscopo last night.
So I chatted with a gentleman this week. I talked with with Chad Lopez, our buddy, who runs everything for Mr. Katsimatidis at WABC, right? And he said, they go, "Hey, Joe, you know Ray Negron?" I go, "Ray, I know Ray. This is the man that introduced me to Reggie Jackson. I'm saying. You hear what I'm saying? And I know Ray, he is a Yankee icon. and he's got a great story. So I said, Ray, you should come on the show, and because we take phone calls, and tell us about your love of Frank Sinatra. Ray hung out with Mr. Sinatra. He was at Patsy's with Mr. Sinatra. I missed when we were at Patsy's a few weeks ago. On the wall, there's a picture of Mr. Sinatra, Sal Scagnamilla, and Ray. So, hey, Ray Negron, welcome to the show, my brother. Thank you for being here tonight.
Joe, what an honor. No, what an honor. You know, when just nobody respects Mr. Sinatra like you do, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. And I know the respect he had for you, but tell us how you got to know. First of all, Ray, if I may, sir, and we know each other, man. And by the way, I got to tell you as an aside now, you know, we're going to pull back the curtain. Thanks for making me look good with my gal pal that I was with last time I saw you at a nightclub. You said, Reggie Jackson says hi. I went, oh, yeah. She goes, you know Reggie Jackson? I said, yes, actually, I do. Thank you. Thanks for that, Ray. You are the man.
No problem. No problem. I wasn't going to pull a Don Rickles on you, believe me.
Don't bother me now, Joe. Yeah, that would have been great. Hey, Ray, so tell me how did you get involved with the Yankee organization and Mr. Steinbrenner? This is a great story, an inspiring story, Ray, if you would.
Well, your timing to have me on the show is perfect because I'm actually in the middle of doing the Bill O'Connell documentary on my life called Bad Boy, Tragedy and Triumph. And all the Sinatra stuff kept on coming back, you know. And so when you spoke to me during the week, it was like, oh, my God, I got to do this show. I got to get this thing out. And what happened was in 1973, George Steinbrenner buys the Yankees in January of that year.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 months later in June, I'm outside Yankee Stadium doing what we did in that era, which was we did a lot of graffiti. We opened up the pumps and got the water into the cars. We played skellies, you know, all this stuff. And what kids did at that time. But we picked the wrong spot because all of a sudden, as we were doing graffiti on one of the walls at Yankee Stadium, a car drives right on the sidewalk. Two guys jump out. We all start to run. I trip over a guy. And someone is like basically got me. He's got me, and they're dragging me into the holding cell at Yankee Stadium.
Wow!
And what would happen? One guy says to the other guy, "Good, this is where these people belong. There's nothing you can do for them." And when the other guy, when the heavyset guy heard this guy say that, all of a sudden he said, "Give me the kid." And next thing you know, he's dragging me into the Yankee locker room, and he made me the Yankee bat boy, and that guy was George Steinbrenner.
Wow, you were a kid from the streets. You're spraying graffiti. Mr. Steinbrenner finds you there, man, and you went on. Now you're like a spokesperson. Every time you're at the stadium, I've known you. You know every single player all those years. What a great story. And then you saw, because the connection of Frank Sinatra and George Steinbrenner, because, you know, now, to this day, Ray, New York, after every game, you know, and tell us about your relationship with Mr. S that you would see at the stadium.
Joe, the years progressed. One day I asked Mr. Steinbrenner why he did that for me, which he said, I wanted to prove the other guy wrong. And you better not ever F me.
Yeah.
And
oh, man.
Okay, and the look in his face. But let me just say this: in 1976, the Yankees are playing the Kansas City Royals in the playoffs.
Right.
I get a call down in the clubhouse. Bring up a dozen balls. That meant that I had to bring up a dozen signed baseballs for Mr. Steinbrenner to give to his guest.
Yeah.
So naturally, when the boss called, you ran. You didn't walk. You ran. And as I'm running into the suite, I see Cary Grant, I see Kirk Douglas, and I see the incredible Frank Sinatra, of which I dropped the baseballs, and Steinbrenner starts screaming, "What's wrong with you? I thought you had good hands." And everybody starts to laugh. And you know what? I picked up the balls real quick. I handed them out, you know, but I was literally trembling, and I would literally run. I never got to say hello or how are you. After the game was over, Mr. Steinbrenner, after the Chambliss home run, Mr. Steinbrenner invited Cary Grant and Mr. Sinatra and Kirk Douglas down to the clubhouse to celebrate with the players. Mr. Sinatra did not come downstairs.
Wow.
You know, he left, unfortunately, so I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
And that was in 76.
Yeah.
In 77, let me just say this. The guy that was with Mr. Steinbrenner the day that they caught me was a very bad man, okay?
Yeah.
And because of it, I never mention his name because he may have family, so I'm not going to,
Gotcha.
let the kids think that the man was a bad guy or anything like that. So they'll never know who it was. But this was a bad guy who made my life miserable, especially when Mr. Steinbrenner was out of town. If he knew that Mr. Steinbrenner was out of town, he came looking for me.
Wow.
Okay, he literally made to the point that one day, after messing with me really bad, Elston Howard found out about it. He told Billy Martin. Billy told the boss.
Yeah.
And so Billy and the boss had me up in the office, and I was so frustrated that I said, "I wish I was white."
Yeah. Wow.
Did you hear what I said?
Wow. Yeah, man. Unbelievable.
And it upset Mr. Steinbrenner to the point where, it just really upset him. And Billy, came real close to slapping me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
To,
Elston
later-
Howard, just to stop for a second, and because I want to get back to the music, Ray, but I got to tell you something. Elston Howard, what a class guy, Elston Howard, number 32, man. And tell us when you ended up at Patsy's, and then the picture up at Patsy's with Frank Sinatra. So it was Billy. It was the Billy Martin connection that got you over to Francis Albert.
Billy, like 2 days later, he says, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "I'm not doing anything." He said, "Yes, you are. You're coming to dinner with me." And he took me to Patsy's. When we got over there, we walked in. He says, "Wait here." He went upstairs. You know the room upstairs.
Yeah, we were just there.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
He ran upstairs, and then within 10 minutes, Joe, the father of Sal, came downstairs and said, "You're with Billy Martin?" And he saw me with this big afro. You know what I'm saying? "You're with Billy Martin?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Follow me." He takes me upstairs, and there is Mr. Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Jerry Rizzo. The whole crew was there, okay? The whole crew. And then they had me sit down right next to Mr. S., and Billy told Mr. Sinatra what had happened.
Yeah.
And Mr. Sinatra, let me just say,
please,
he hammered me. He hammered me, saying you should never be ashamed of your color. Wow. You should always respect your people. Wow. Your people have fought too hard in this country to make a mark. He says, "I'm telling you what I told Sammy in the 40s. And you know what? If I ever hear Billy Martin tell me something like this again, do me a favor. Don't come to Patsy's again, ever."
Wow.
And the look that he gave me when he said that was like, you understand, I was shaking.
Absolutely,
shaking.
Man.
You know?
Ray, what a great story. I mean, we're going to look for the book when it comes out. But then you hung out with Mr. S. I saw the picture's still up there at Patsy's, man.
It's still there because he treated me. He treated me like an equal. He didn't treat me like I was a low-level guy that should walk into the back door.
I got you, man.
He treated me like his friend. I wasn't Frank Sinatra's friend per se. You know what I'm saying? Billy Rizzo was his friend. Billy was his friend.
I got it.
He treated me like, a person.
Ray, you're the man. What a great story. Ray, thank you, my friend. I'll see you out there. We'll see you at the stadium. See you around. Ray Negron is just a legend in Yankee history, and starting out.
Wow. Good job, Ray. Have you ever run into Joe Piscopo, Robbie?
We've run into him, yes, here and there on the road. I'm thinking we might have done. Well, I know we did some shows together where we were both on the bill and stuff. So yes, we have run across each other here and there.
Well, our next guest, Ricky Peterson, is one of your Hammond brothers there from Minnesota, one of my favorite places in the country. And talk about how you first met Ricky.
Well, I met him through anybody that plays Hammond organ is part of what we lovingly call the Ham Fam, the Hammond organ family of artist. And Ricky is part of that Ham fam, and he's one of the most brilliant musicians on the planet. He's played with, I mean, you could almost name the people who he hasn't played with would be a smaller number than the people he has played with. He's a brilliant, brilliant player, brilliant musician coming from Minnesota. So let's get him on here.
Yes, yes. And before he starts to talk, we have a little Fleetwood Mac on the Ellen Show where he's playing keyboard there. Let's show that clip and then bring Ricky right on.
Love it.
Our next guests have sold over 100 million albums and are one of the most iconic bands in music. Here to perform The Chain, please welcome Fleetwood Mac.
Listen to the wind blow, watch the sun rise. Run in the shadows, damn your love, damn your lies. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain. And if you don't love me now, you will never love me again. I can still hear you saying you would never break the chain.
Bravo, bravo.
Yes. There we go. You and Stevie. Wow. I think we have the picture up on the screen. There we go. Talk about that, Ricky. How was it performing with Fleetwood Mac and Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood?
We don't hear you, buddy. You got to unmute. Well, sorry, we don't hear Ricky.
Aha, how about now?
There we go.
Okay, that's my fault. But anyways, hi, you guys. It's nice to see
Hey,
you.
Ricky, how are you?
Very good. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. And that's a great clip. That actual picture was taken behind the stage at Ellen Show.
Oh, cool.
And it was she looked like my little girlfriend, didn't she?
Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
She's so cute, man. Anyways, we had a ball doing that. First of all, I just want to get my heart goes out to the people in the Bronx, by the way. First of all, I'm sorry to hear the tragedy that happened there, man. That's just awful. And of course, losing our boys, man, are two great people. And your little girl that passed away. I'm sorry to hear that. Nobody should be that, should have to go through that first of all.
Yeah, we usually don't start the show off quite like that, but there was.
I know. But you know what? People have to be aware. So, they got to know what's going on. Robbie, how are you?
Good, brother. How are you, man?
I'm very good, man. I'm so nice to see you guys, and thank you for reaching out and getting a hold of me.
So, Ricky, you're in Minnesota. How cold is it there these days?
Well, I woke up today. It was 1. So, but 2 days ago it was 19 below, and that was the real temperature.
Wow.
You got a heat wave going on now.
Wind chill is 36 below zero, which is, you just don't go out, man. It's like, why would you want to go out? Even just walk into the garbage truck or to the corners is a feat in itself, so not really. We're used to it, man. So,
but Ricky, you are used to it because you've been in Minneapolis your whole career, pretty much. As a matter of fact, you're part of Minnesota's first family of music, and that would be the Peterson family, right?
Yeah, everybody in my family play music together, and we've had a ball, man. We actually just got through putting a record out with my brothers. I called it Ricky Peterson and the Peterson Brothers, and that came out last March and actually did pretty good. But we do our family every year. We do 35 years we've been doing this. We do a Christmas concert every year, and everybody plays, and we bring in the siblings and their children are all players. So we've been blessed. It's either a blessing or a curse. I'm not quite sure yet, but
it's a blessing.
It's
a
blessing.
A lot of other people too.
Yeah,
it's definitely a blessing. So, Ricky, talk about when you first met Robbie. How'd that friendship develop?
Oh my God, Robbie, you and I, it's like he said, it was we're the ham fam.
Yeah.
So that's how I met Robbie, and I believe that I think I saw you with Frankie.
Yeah.
And we got to know each other there. I think we did something with David Sanborn and Frankie and you, and I don't know how the heck it actually happened, but it's been a good 25 years, you know. So I know that he's a heck of a talent, that Robbie, doggone. I heard him play, and I just went, "You can't play like that. It's too good."
You're one of the, Ricky Peterson is one of the most, as I said earlier, one of the most brilliant musicians on the
Oh,
planet.
well, I don't know about that, but bless you.
I do. And it's one of the rare things that you can wear. You're playing with Fleetwood Mac. That's rock and roll. You play with Prince. That's up to me, R&B. Then you play with David Sanborn, and that's a jazz. Not many guys can wear all those different musical hats and play it authentically like you do, brother.
Oh, bless you, man. Thank you. I appreciate that very much, man. I worked hard at it, like we all do. It's not a walk in the park. You gotta pay some dues, And I feel blessed that I was able to do that. And I have to give a shout out to Ben Sidran, who is one of the mentors in my life, who introduced me to all of these guys. And he got a hold of me with Tommy LaPuma, and Tommy LaPuma was doing the Bob James, David Sanborn Double Vision record at the time. And that was 1984, I believe. And David was looking for a band. He wanted somebody to put a band together for him, because all the other guys were kind of going off on their own. And Tommy LaPuma, who became a dear friend through Sidran, introduced me to David, and it's history from there, So
Wow.
Yeah. We fought like cats and dogs too. It's just hilarious. Like we were married. Not really. He was such a great guy, man. And such a great player.
Then, though, that you've obviously been tugged to go to New York, tugged to go to LA, but you're staying in Minneapolis.
I stayed in Minneapolis. What a lucky guy. I love my family. Of course, I never really didn't have to move, man. I guess I was lucky enough to be able to do what I'm doing through Minneapolis, and I chose to stay here, man. I mean, I could have moved. If I would have gone anywhere, it would have been New York. So I love LA, but I love New York more. I spent so much time there. The Minnesota
There's nothing wrong with Minnesota.
Doggone Vikings. Did you watch them the last game yesterday? It was unbelievable.
Yes, and then they got rid of their coach and their general manager.
They
so
sure did.
what are you going to figure? But talk about, when we think about music in Minnesota, Minneapolis, we think of Prince.
Yeah.
Talk about your relationship with Prince. How'd that come about?
Well, I tell you what, he and I, I used to do a lot of studio work at a place called Sound 80 in southern Minneapolis, and it was like a state-of-the-art studio where we would do a lot of stuff. And we were both about the same age, and he was kind of on his own, like a little hermit, you know what I mean? And I saw him in one of the studios. I think he was in Studio B, and we were in A we're doing jingles and stuff at that time. We were doing Dairy Queen and what have you. And he's next door, and we're just kind of poking our head in there going, who the heck is this kid? And he's in there doing the For You record. That was his first record.
Wow.
And a friend of mine, Jimmy Bowman, it's a long story. My father knew this guy, Jimmy Bowman, who was a wonderful musician from Chicago. His son was good friends with Prince, and his son introduced me to Prince. And he said, "Come on with me. We're going to go over to this guy's house, and I want you to play with him, because I know that you love playing music." And so we ended up going to this guy's house, and he was in Edina, Minnesota, and it wasn't Prince's house because he lived in North Minneapolis, but this guy lived in Edina, which is a suburb of Minneapolis, and brought me to this guy's house. And here's Prince in the basement with I think it was Lisa, Bobby Z on drums, Des Dickerson, and I believe it was on bass. I can't remember. But anyways, we sat there and we jammed and played and had just a ball. And, they were all pretty normal people. I mean, they weren't highballers or anything like that. But we would just get together, and wherever he would go rehearsing, he's trying to get his band together for for Purple Rain, pretty much putting the Revolution together.
Wow.
And the Revolution. So we ended up playing together and doing all that stuff. And of course, he asked me to play in the Revolution, and I said no.
Wow.
I said there's only one reason why. It's is because I know that it would entail me not being able to be creative. I would have to do what he was going to do, and I knew that it would take a lot of time. I guess it could have been, I suppose, what's the word I'm looking for? Is a selfish on my part, I guess, maybe. But I decided not to do it only because I knew that I wasn't going to be up there dancing and doing all the stuff that the band does, and it wasn't me, you know. And he understood and respected me for that for a long time. So he would always invite me when Purple Rain got really huge. He'd come out and he'd say, Ricky, you got to come on, you got to come see me. And we'd go in there and he'd give me a big hug and backstage. And he's not a guy that does that, you know. He's not one of those guys.
Yeah.
But he was very cordial to me. And then he built Paisley Park, and Paisley Park was a place that he said, "Get your butt over here, come on, let's go." And I became the staff producer for Paisley Park Records, and I had an office there for 12 years or something like that. And so I did a lot of stuff up until the late 90s. And when I think his last number one hit was "The Most Beautiful Girl," which I produced for him.
Fantastic.
Wow.
And I think that was 92 or 93. I can't remember, but that was one of his last number one hit songs. So I was lucky enough to be around. Then he threw me that bone. You know what I mean? He threw me that opportunity.
Pretty nice bone. I had a lot of
pretty
food
nice
on that bone.
Yeah, it was
That's
a good
right.
bone. So,
It's-
anyways, we weren't close that what you guys were talking about with Sinatra and we weren't close friends or anything, but we were very respectful and loved each other for sure. You know.
Well, you did a lot of work with musical legend Bonnie Raitt as well. Talk about your time with Bonnie Raitt.
Bonnie, I met when she was pretty much starting in her career back in the early 70s, I think, because she would come here and do a lot of blues stuff with Ray, Tony Glover, Ray. It was a couple of different guys, and I'm spacing out their names, but she did a lot of music then, and I met her at that time. And then throughout the years, I became really good friends with her brother, Steve. And Steve and I were thick as thieves for many, many years. So I got to know Bonnie through him. And then in the mid 80s, I think it was 82, 83, we had a band called the TC Jammers. And she used that band because it was a great R&B funk band that we had in the Twin Cities. And when she came to town, she would use that band to do her little tours and around the Midwest area. She would do that. And that's how I got to know her in the early 80s. I guess it was 82 or something like that. But then, we kept on getting to talking to each other. And finally, when Steve became ill he had a brain tumor, and of course we got to see each other a lot more. And I kind of helped her along with that because she was really taking care of Steve at the time. And that's when I started playing with her. She wanted me to come in the band and play with her, and I was touched, of course. And it's just one of my favorite singers and songwriters on the planet, man. She's such a badass, And I was very, very fortunate to be able to play with her for about 5 years. So, we just hit it off really well. So
super cool.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Wow. This is Reach Out with Ray, Steve, and Robbie, and we're talking with keyboardist, music sensation Ricky Peterson from Minnesota. You also perform with the Go-Go's and Anita Baker. Talk about those two.
You know what? We were produced. I'll tell you. I was producing with David Rifkin in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and he and I were kind of partners and doing a lot of stuff together. And that was, of course, when Paisley was just becoming, we broke in the studios out there, and he was, he would be getting these gigs and ask me to come along and hop on board and help him produce the stuff and play on it. So the Go-Go's happened to be one of the ones that we did. I mean, we did them and the Fine Young Cannibals and Colin Ray and all sorts of different people, man. And, we were kind of the flavor of of Paisley Park because it was a big deal back then, so people all
Sure.
wanted to come there, and REM and all sorts of different people.
Wow.
So I threw them on the resume. Why not?
Hey, what's going on this new year, 2022? What's 2022 have in store for Ricky Peterson?
Well, are we going to see each other in a couple of weeks, or is that even happening?
Well, we're not touring until March. I know
Okay.
that. And but the NAMM show is where we always see each other. Of course.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
That's going to be not going to be until June or July.
Okay, because I hadn't heard anything, and that's probably why. But
Yep.
I'm going out. I'm actually going to do a couple of gigs with Sanborn. I've got
Great.
some dates with him in March. I'm actually going the end of this month on January 31st to Cologne, Germany, to do a Prince tribute with the WDR Big Band.
Wow, how
And
cool!
yeah, and that's and it's Mendoza. Vince Mendoza is doing all the arranging for that one.
Wow.
And I'm
He's a
helping
big
produce
band
that
now.
thing for those guys.
Now tell the audience what a big band is, because that's sort of a passé term in some respects.
It sure is. Okay, well, a big band is like the old in the 40s and 50s. It's like you got 9 horns in the band. It's it's 4 saxes, 4 trumpets, 4 it's all sorts of different people, but it's a big doggone band. It's 16 pieces. And it's just amazing how they play together, and every one of them is a virtuoso. So it's it's an honor to be able to go there and hang with these guys. And I didn't just do it, but I did a record with them, a funk record with my stuff, with the WDR in 2018 or 19, I believe it was, and that came out and did it pretty well. It was pretty funky, man.
Wow.
I had my own rhythm section come in, and we did my songs that I wrote and a few different, like a couple of David Sanborn tunes. But anyways, WDR is one of the utmost famous, huge, wonderful big bands that play together. So,
And I love big band music too. And we were talking about Sinatra earlier, of course.
Yeah.
Sinatra is one of the pinnacles of big band music.
Absolutely.
Especially some of those records he did with Count Basie and Duke. Well, he didn't do Duke Ellington, but that genre, right, Ray
Yes.
Nicklone?
I
better
totally
believe
agree
it.
with that. Yeah. I had the pleasure of meeting Vince Falcone. Falcone. I don't know how you would say it, Falcone or Falcone.
Falcone, I think, is the name.
Falcone, I think so. Anyways, I never met Frank. I would have loved to have, but I met Bob. What's his name? Bob. He does the Frank Sinatra show. He just did it in New York.
Oh, Joe Piscopo, you mean? Or?
No, not Joe. By the way, that was a great interview, Ray. By
Yeah.
the way, it was
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
That was great. No, it's Bob. Doggone it, I'm trying to remember his name. Bob. It's not Johnson, but it's something like that.
Okay.
And he looks. He's a great singer. He's an impersonator from Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
And he looks like he does the whole thing. But Vince Falcone did all the music and had all of Sinatra's big band and all the same members and everybody that were still alive in that band. And I saw them in Vegas, and it was just to die for. I wish I could have had the pleasure to meet Frank at some point, but I would have been a young boy.
Oh, Ricky and Robbie, we have a little clip of Ricky at WDR. Let's check it out.
Awesome.
Oh, cool.
You told me when we met that your life was awful tame. I took you to the nightclub and the whole band knew your name. Oh, baby. Matter with you? Oh, girl, I got news for you. residue. Oh, somehow your story's not ringing true again. I got news for you, yeah, yeah. You called, said you'd be late. You took the wrong express. Then you walked in smiling with your lipstick all a mess. Oh, baby. You did it again.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just love it.
Boy, what a treat that was, you guys. Unbelievable, man. I was like freaked out to be able to play with a big band like that, man. So
Yeah, a little funkified with the big band. That was great.
thanks, man. Thank you.
Now
man.
you were playing a big beast of an organ there, the
Big old
Hammond
C3.
C3, that right there.
Yes, sir.
Tell the audience what it's like to play the Hammond organ, because it's the iconic instrument of rock and pop and blues.
Well, there's nothing like it. First of all, as you know, the Hammond itself is. I wanted to show you this, you guys. If you see this in the background, I've got some virtual. Actually, they're mock-ups of B3 and stuff. I don't know if I can bring that over there, but anyways, it's the most rewarding feeling in the world to play that instrument, man, because it's just nothing sounds like it. Nothing's funkier. You can't get anything, close to that sound. It's just the sound of it, to me, is the most incredible quality of every nuance. I mean, it's got all it's got the bass, it's got your left hand, it's got your right hand, it's just got everything that you want to do. Kind of like a piano, but the spectrum is huge, and yeah. I just love playing Hammond so much. It's always been a joy of mine. I have to tell you a quick little story. My mom and dad both played great Hammond. My dad was the first organist for the Minnesota Twins.
Is that right?
Yeah, he started in 1961 when the Twins came from Washington, and they were the Senators, and the Twins came and they hired my dad to play the organ. So he played that until he passed away in 69. And then my mother took over for 3 years. And then she didn't want to play the dun 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 because they were playing on a clear day and all sorts of great tunes that it had something to do with the game, And it was
so your mother was with Billy Martin when he managed.
Absolutely. I was going to bring that up too. Billy Martin was there. I got to meet him. I got to meet Zoilo Versailles. I got to meet all
MVP.
the guys from the old Twins team, man. So
wow.
Yeah. Because
Rodney Klein Carew.
Yeah, Rod Carew. Tony Oliva, who just got Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame.
Killer Brew.
And Killer Brew, absolutely. I've got I don't know where it is. It's up here somewhere, but I've got a Hi Ricky from Harmon Killebrew on the wall.
Wow.
Wow, cool. Have you ever played organ at a baseball game?
What's that?
Have you ever played organ at a baseball game?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put myself in that position because I'd suck at it.
Oh, you don't suck at anything, brother.
Well, you can't be worse than the Twins.
Oh, well, I hate to say that, but you're right. Yeah, oh, yes, I can, by the way.
I want to personally thank you, because when I was in Minnesota doing some work, Robbie hooked me up with some Frankie Valli tickets, but I also got the chance to meet you. We did a sit down in your studio, and I learned all about the history there, that your parents performed there, and it was such a treat. So I want to thank you personally for letting me in your world over there.
That's absolutely no problem. Anytime, you guys are welcome at any point, man. It's a beautiful place.
Ricky, I got to ask you, while with Prince, did you run across a young lady by the name of Jill Jones?
Of course. I knew Jill very well. She was in the basement with me at his house, at the house that we were jamming at. She was there.
Unbelievable. Yes. Unbelievable. She was a friend in the early 80s who I would meet during the World Series of 1981 when the Dodgers put a pounding on us.
Nice. He had to get that in, by the way.
Of course, no, I'm just giving you a little your due, Robbie. And as a matter of fact, while meeting Jill, I actually got to meet Rick James and Tina Marie.
Oh, cool. That's pretty cool.
Wow.
So that was a good time. But I'm glad she's doing well.
She's doing well. I haven't talked to her for a long time, but I know that she's doing well. my little brother Paul kind of keeps tabs on all those people.
Great.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool. And Paul and I are going to do this WDR Prince thing at the end of the month. We're going to be there for 2 weeks, and it's going to be 2 concerts we're doing and a whole record. So look forward to that for sure. And
Well,
then,
Ricky, thank you so very much. We're just about out of time, but how can people connect with you?
well, they can go on my website for sure, and anytime they can send me a note, and hopefully it won't bounce back because sometimes it does. But it's at rickyp.com.
Okay.
And Ricky at rickypeterson.com, So anyways, I'm here, man. You guys know where to find me. And if you need somebody to talk to, give me a call anytime. We love you guys.
That's
Thank you,
right.
brother.
We love you. Thank
Appreciate
you, Ricky. Thank you
Very
very
much.
much
Thank
for
you.
spending some time with us. Stay warm.
God bless.
Yeah.
Go Vikings. Go Vikings.
Thanks.
There we go. All right, Ricky. Thanks a lot. Robbie, oh my God, what an unbelievable person he is.
Oh, he is one of the baddest cats on the planet as a keyboard player. And like I mentioned earlier, not many guys can wear so many musical hats authentically like Ricky Peterson does. I mean, like I said, he can play blues, he can play rock, he can play pop, he can play R&B, and he can play jazz. And not many guys can do that.
Right. It's interesting because you chose to be with Val all years, and he's chosen to be with different artists for so many years. So for you to see you guys come together and be so close, it's a beautiful thing.
Why does that happen, Robbie?
Why does what happen?
Why would you stay so long with one as opposed to him circulating?
Well, that's a good question. I guess it would be a long answer, but part of it is not many artists have the longevity of a Frankie Valli. I mean, who would have thought that in 1978 I joined with this guy, and here we are 44 years later, and Frankie's still on top of the world. It's been a great marriage working with Frankie Valli, and he is an icon, an absolute genius, and
to his credit, he always introduces you as one of his very best friends.
Yeah,
that's right. And Robbie, you got a show tonight, Jam and Java tonight. Tell our viewers a little bit about it.
Well, my guest tonight is one of my best friends on the planet, Richie Gajate Garcia.
Puerto Riqueño.
Yeah, that's right. And born in New York City, raised in Puerto Rico. And then he ended up going to Springfield, Illinois. And he and I met in 1971, and we started playing gigs together. In 1978, Frankie was looking for a guy. And Richie Garcia, who was playing with Frankie at the time, said, "Hey, I know the guy." And so he called me, and thanks to Richie Gajate Garcia, I've been with Frankie Valli all these years. Richie plays with Phil Collins. He plays with Sting. He plays with Stevie Wonder. And of course, he's played with Frankie Valli through the years. And he's been one of my best friends for life.
Well, Robbie, thank you so much. We're just about out of time. It was a loaded show. Thank you. We're going to be tuning into your show tonight.
Awesome.
And stay warm yourself, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you, Robbie.
God bless.
You're
God
the man,
bless.
the myth, and the legend.